Hey, it's December 28th, 2018 here, and another edition of Soapbox Sunday. And yeah, you're right, it's not a Sunday, it's a Friday, but I thought I'd go ahead and make one today while I had a few minutes. I haven't been able to make one in about 2 weeks. We've just been having a lot of fun around here in the shop. Finished up the KT88 amplifier build. We built the E-Tracer tube tester. I've helped some friends out on some gear. I'm working on the AD2 project right now, and some of these I'll show you some updates today. We've just been having a blast here this winter. Looking forward to one day when I retire in a few years, and I'm going to move the shop here out of the basement out into a building so that maybe others could come over and join in the fun during the days while I'm doing this stuff for my retirement career. But anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of. I've been struggling with a camera mount for my desk. I need to buy something, but I thought I'd show you a guy who has a picture of what innovation will do for you. This has been my camera mount for my Soapbox Sundays now for quite some time. So I just thought you'd get a kick out of it. All right, let's roll on into our first topic. All right, the KT88 single-ended amplifier that we built. I'm about a month into this unit now of since the build was complete and listening to it, and I've clocked quite a few hours listening to it while doing other projects like building the E-Tracer tube tester, and I'm just blown away. I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I didn't design this amplifier. I simply built what a 20-page post on Audio Karma, where a bunch of guys had been experimenting and iterating some previous designs and had kind of came up with. And I just built it. I mean, I didn't really add any magic to it other than a good quality build, I think. And I've just been blown away with it, to be honest. So I'll say this: it's as good as anything I have ever heard. Now, you have to take every statement with a grain of salt because I've heard some amplifiers that, sound a little better with rock music, or this one sounds a little better with jazz, or, maybe this one would sound a little better with some R&B, or maybe even rap music, or whatever, they all have their accentuating points and their kind of their highlights. But this is just good, well-rounded amplifier. For a single-ended amplifier, I'm blown away with how it performs across the board. So if you're thinking about building one, I think I made a pretty good video series. I think it's about 12 to 14 videos there. Should walk you right through it. I'm just saying, I've had quite a few people over for the holidays too that have listened to it that, I think they almost wept, a few of them, because some of them had really never heard high-end audio. They thought, Apple EarPods or iPods or whatever, the AirPods, that's it, AirPods. They thought the AirPod was the epitome of, top-end audiophile music, and they sat and listened to this, and I could just see jaws on the floor, So, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. I just thought I'd give you a couple more impressions, a few weeks into it now. I don't know that I plan to change anything about it because it's just that darn good. Okay, up next, a quick little update on the transformer rewinding service that I'm in the process of acquiring from Gary Brown. He's updated his website now. You can read it. It says, happy to inform everyone that TRS has been sold. It'll take a few months for the transition, and the new owner will be able to take on work. Please be patient. Mark, the new owner, will be able to continue this most needed service. Here's his name and his contact info. Any rate, I've been getting inquiries since then. People saying, "Hey, can you rewind this?" And I'm like, "No, read the website. I'm not there yet." Or two, I'm getting all kinds of questions on what will it cost, even if you're not ready to rewind it now. When you do get ready to rewind it, what's it going to cost me to get this done? And I'll be honest, I'm not ready to answer those questions yet. Until I can start rewinding some stuff and then figure out how long it takes me and how much I'm going to charge per hour and those types of things, I'm just not in a place to say, this is what it's going to cost. My goal is for my price to really not be much different than what Gary was charging for things. Certainly no intent here to take prices upwards or whatnot. But then again, I might not be as proficient as Gary, so it may take me longer. I don't know. We're just going to have to see as we get into it. So we'll get closer. I'll show you the email I've been sending out to people basically when they contact me about it. This is just my little notepad version so I can copy it and paste it into emails. I say, sadly, I'm not taking on transformer rewinding work yet. While I'm buying out Gary, he's in Florida for the winter, and I won't even be able to pick up his gear until spring, basically. I plan to spend some time with him learning the tricks of the trade. At that point, it will take me a bit to get up to speed and begin taking on work. I estimate later in 2019. Check back with me then if you still need help. Thanks, Mark. That's what I've kind of been telling everybody, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not quite to a point where I'm ready to give pricing and or time quotes, things of that nature. But what I hope to do is bring this service back to life. Got some friends I've been talking with that might help me out a little bit with this along the way, so that while I'm busy in my day job, they could be helping out some. I don't know. Haven't figured it all out yet. More to come here. I'll keep you updated as we move along. And I thought I'd talk to you guys about this calibration tube set journey that I've been on. It's been an interesting one. So a while back, about a year ago, I created a video entitled "How to Calibrate Your TV7 Tube Tester." Okay, and in the video, I basically said, look, here's how you calibrate it, but you're going to need a set of calibration tubes, and I don't sell those. There's a guy named Daniel Nilsson that sells those. Please reach out to him and buy some, okay? And then you can use my video to go and calibrate your tube tester. Well, like 2 or 3 weeks later, I started getting people pinging me saying, hey, Mark, Daniel Nilsson no longer sells these calibration tubes. Would you sell me a set? And I was like, oh boy, that's not good if I made a video on how to calibrate tube testers and you can't obtain the calibration tubes to do it with. So I thought, well, what the heck? I had a bunch of metal 6SL7s laying around, which is typically what you use for these. I've got a gazillion 12AT7s, and I had some 6AU6s, but they're cheap enough. You can pick them up pretty used for about $1. So I ordered a bunch of 6AU6s, and I set out to make about 15 sets of these calibration tubes. And what I've found is over time, I guess more and more people have these TV7 tube testers, and they're watching my video, and then they're saying, hey, I need a set of these. I have sold over 100 sets of these now at this point. Matter of fact, I'm struggling to keep up with finding metal 6L6 tubes. At some points along the way, I've had to swap out and just buy higher priced glass tubes. But it's been an interesting journey. And then along the way, hang on. I had people asking me, hey, Mark, could you take these TV7 tubes and also mark them in their micromho values so I could use it to calibrate my other tube testers, Hickok or whatnot, that's measured in micromhos? And I said, well, sure, I'll do that for you. And I started getting enough requests for that. I thought, well, I'll just make a set of these for that are marked in micromhos, and should help you hit just about any range on most tube testers. And so I've sold a bunch of these, believe it or not. It's been kind of crazy, but that's not the point of today's video. The point of today's video is I've had some crazy requests lately. I'll have people, they'll buy a set of these, and a week later or 2 weeks later, I'll get a request on eBay. I'd like to return my calibration tubes. And then the reasons I'll get are, well, you used used tubes in your calibration. I expected brand new matched tubes. Okay. Well, if you read down in my auctions, it clearly states that that I use used tubes in this. And that's on purpose, honestly. One, to help lower the price of tubes that I'm using, and two, you don't necessarily want all your tubes brand new when you're using them for calibration. Calibration is always about finding a known value and then comparing against that. And whether that's a weak tube, a new tube, a brand new tube, or a used tube, it really doesn't matter as long as you're calibrating against that known value. So I've had people flip out that I didn't mail them, $50 worth of brand new tubes. Because if you go buy a nice 6L6, a nice 12AT7, and a nice 6AU6, all of a sudden you got most of your money wrapped up in the tubes. And it takes some time to test these and mark them properly, box them, label them, ship them, that type thing. So that's been an interesting one. And when people return something a few weeks after they get it and it's a calibration tube, I just wonder, did they calibrate their unit and decide they don't need this anymore and they just sent it back? I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of that. It's just one of those kind of things. And so I don't know. It's just been a little bit of an odd journey, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's helped fund some stuff around here. Honestly, it's what paid for the E-Tracer tube tester. So I believe in self-funding hobbies. If my wife came down here and looked at all the stuff I have in this office and said, "Hey, what did all that cost?" and I added it all up, I could easily respond to her, but not one penny of this came out of our checking account. Not one penny of this came out of our my paycheck. Every bit of everything I own that's related to this hobby, whether it's amplifiers, test gear, whatnot, has all been self-funded, either buying stuff, flipping it for a little profit, or stuff like these tubes here, whatnot. I just believe in self-funding hobbies. It helps in the whole divorce scenario. So anyway, I'm having fun with this, and we'll keep making calibration sets here for you if you need them. All right, a funny little story. I'm scrolling through Facebook the other day, and I'm a member of a lot of the DIY audio groups out there, and I'm scrolling through, and I find this picture, and I wish I had saved it, and I've tried to go back and find it, and I just can't. But bottom line, it was two monoblocks sitting there, and they weren't anything crazy, I mean, it was like EL34s or 6L6s or something along that line, right? Just a push-pull pair on each side. And they had a small computer box fan mounted beside each one of the set of tubes, blowing air across the tubes. And I wanted to reply, hey, your amp really doesn't need that fan, and if anything, you may be introducing noise with that fan. But somebody beat me to the punch on that post, so I was just kind of laughed at it. But I thought I'd talk to you because a lot of people may wonder over time, do I need to cool my tubes in a tube amp? So you remember the picture of the KT88 I showed you a little bit ago, right? You've just got a chassis there with tubes sitting on top of it. You do not need to cool those tubes. They were designed to work at high temperatures. The heat that they have, they make that heat themselves. They were designed to operate that way, and running them cooler, I don't think adds any value. Okay, now if your tubes are running too hot, it probably has absolutely nothing to do with whether you're cooling them or not. Okay, it has to do with you've either got them biased too hot and you're running through too much current through the tube at all times, or you've got some bad coupling capacitors and you're leaking DC from a previous stage onto the grids of your output tubes, causing them to red plate, run hot. It's not your tubes, and you don't need to cool them. Now, having said that, check out this picture here. This is a picture where tubes are not on the outside. They are enclosed inside of an amplifier. And by the way, when they put the cover on top of this, you've got to have a way to get this hot air out of the chassis. And so that's what that fan's there for, to pull hot air out and to pull fresh, cool air into the chassis. So that's a valid use for cooling your tubes. Don't get me wrong. There are large transmitting tubes that were designed to, and even if you look up the spec sheet, it'll tell you that you need a chimney socket or some type of cooling mechanism to blow air over these tubes. The audio tubes we use in our gear don't meet that criteria. So short and narrow of it, unless you've got your tubes enclosed inside of an enclosure, I would stay away from a fan. Matter of fact, fans, I'll tell you a story. Me and my next door neighbor growing up, we were both avid kind of ham radio CB guys, right? You might find us on the air at a lot of different frequencies. But we lived one house apart, and we shared the same power line coming down the power pole, right? I could be sitting there listening, and I could tell when he turned a fan on in his house, because I would start picking it up on my RF over the power lines into the equipment I was using. Some of the equipment I might have been using might have been a little questionable back then, but nonetheless, fans induce noise, and that noise, especially if you're feeding your fan right off of your amplifier, has a good chance of putting some noise back into your system there. So I'd stay away from them, would be my recommendation. All right, this tube snake oil video that I made, I have had so much fun with it. It's not even funny. Um, I'll tell you, the comment section, it just goes on and on and on. You know, I'd say about 90% of people plus agree with me totally. You have about 5 to 8% of people that say, hey, but I have seen where these tube dampers made a difference for me. One guy mentioned that he had his tube amp sitting on a headphone amp sitting on his desk at work, and when he would type on his keyboard, he could hear that ringing through, you know, microphonics through his tubes, and he put some dampers on there, and that helped. I'm not disputing there may not be, and I said that some scenarios where it may help. I'm just saying, I said in general it's a bunch of BS, and then there's about 2% of people, or one maybe, that are just adamant that this stuff is not snake oil, that I'm just full of shit myself, and that I'm just out here blabbing to make videos to make basically views or whatnot. And they point me to all kinds of references, this, that, the other, and I don't know. I want to reply, but I haven't. I want to reply, you must be in the tube damper / cryo tube sales business. But I haven't. It's just been a fun video. A lot of people have gotten a lot out of it. Hopefully I've steered some people away from wasting some of their money. But there again, like I said, if people want to spend their money, I'm not one to stop them. But it's just, it was a blast. I will tell you one thing I did do some much more in-depth research on after reading some of the comments was this whole cryo treatment. Okay, so NASA and other places, they cryo treat metal because it has it's kind of like quenching, you know, hot metal to kind of temper it. You know, freezing it has some characteristics that changes some of the the structure of the molecules or whatnot. At any rate, it's really designed to strengthen the metal, not so much maybe make it sound better. So, you know, and then it was funny because some people even replied and said, hey, even if this cryo stuff's real, the number of people that might be doing real cryo treating of tubes would probably be little to none, because the equipment to do so is just astronomical. Somebody'd have to work in a lab or NASA or somewhere to have this type of equipment. So I don't know. You know, I gave my opinion. It's all opinions, you know what they are like, you know. Everybody's got one. So I just had a lot of fun with it, and I'll stand behind my statements as of right now till someone can prove me otherwise. All right, last topic of the day. I've been impressed enough with the audio analyzer suite by the Stuff Made and the Analog Discovery 2 device by Diligent. The combination of those two, I think, makes a good enough audio analyzer suite for the average technician's bench. I did a comparison against my AD903 back here at quite a few frequencies and test points, and it's pretty darn close. It's not exactly precise, but it's close enough for what I need. And I'm not even sure my AD903 is perfect. It may be the one that's, I mean, we're talking like 0.2% off. I mean, it's close enough. If I told you your amp was, you know, at 0.72% distortion versus 0.7% distortion, you know, would it really matter? I think we're splitting hairs at that point. You know, so the fact that this has modern software, the guy seems to be committed to keeping it up to date now. It doesn't look back to check in, to update, to continue running any longer. That and the fact that I can run it on my Windows PC and take the display of that and integrate it into my videos easily is what's taking me down this path. I'm not replacing the AD903. I'm going to leave it up here, and I will still use it on the bench. We will, you know, like if I'm just sitting there wanting to see really quick what distortion I'm at or what power output I'm putting or whatever, it's a great device for, you know, in-time measurement. Whereas, you know, this audio analyzer suite is more for, let's do an analysis, a frequency sweep, or a frequency versus distortion or power versus distortion over frequency or whatnot. So I think it's good enough for our bench, and we're going to move forward with doing that. All right, as you can see here in the picture, I am totally reworking my dummy load setup at this point in time. A couple things I'm wanting to change about it. One, I've mounted, as you can see, the analog discovery inside of it. And two, I'm wanting to wire the analog discovery 2 up so that it reads both across both resistors at the same time, so that in the software I can choose the option. It gives you the option of reading channel 1, channel 2, or both. I'm wanting to be able to select that both option, send signals out of both waveform generators in this unit, and read across both inputs at the same time. So I could sweep the left and right channel of an amplifier at the same time. That would help cut down. And plus I can then say, show a client, hey, here's both the channels of your amplifier, one in one color and one in the other color. Second up, I want to add an RCA a 3.5 millimeter phono jack on the front of this unit, so that I can just plug in a 3.5 millimeter to dual RCA phono cable to plug down into an amplifier. And then lastly, on the back of it, I want to add another set of speaker jacks, so that instead of using that little terminal strip I had before, that way I can just plug banana jacks in and plug them up into the speakers as well. So a couple changes. As I update all of that, I'm going to go back and update the Analog Discovery 2 video series I was making, and I'll show you what all I've changed about my dummy load for that. I'll draw out some diagrams for you to help you do the same thing if you wish, and we'll show you how to use the software. I'm pretty impressed with it, and we're on a journey here together around it. So, all right, I'm going to call that a wrap for Soapbox Sunday here. Don't think I'll make one this Sunday. I'm going to continue working on this this whole Analog 2 setup and try to crank out some videos on that in the next week or so. So stay tuned. We've got a lot going on in 2019. I'm pretty excited about it, and hope you guys are too. Thanks for being such loyal viewers. My count has ticked up. I picked up 500 viewers since my last Soapbox Sunday when I said I hit the 13,000. We're over 13,500 now. So keep it up. We're having fun. Hope you are too. Thanks, everybody.